Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Good Neighbor Talks. And I am me, and I am your host, Dion Hill. And woof, we have a lot to talk about this evening. We have a lot to talk about. And if you are new to this, welcome. And if you are new to get to this, watching this on YouTube, I would ask for you to, if you haven't already, subscribe and download our IFB app. There's a lot of great, interesting things that's in there. Uh, Not to toot my own horn, but this week it was my blog this week, and every third week of the month, I do the blog, and it has to do with politics and politics in the LGBT plus community, and I thought that's pretty good. I was talking about LGBT plus education and history and sex education in the school systems and the importance of that. Ooh, I would get it. Uh, but whatever way you fall on the political scale, we really have to agree that education is key to the next generation when it comes to dealing and understanding and being more cooperative and, and being just educated about the um can't just sit and just think that people don't exist. You don't give you should be able to give the children the tools to be able to actually be able to be around, conversate, and and coexist with people that are different, and also is very vital in the sense that LGBT children, um, they have the comforts of knowing that they are accepted, are respected, and they are part of the diaspora of the school system. So, so whereas though they can actually thrive on life, and and also in the sense of which it would be a big topic that we're going to be discussing next week, just a little preview. But when it comes to education and the history, then it's always good to see that, hey, that person's like me or that person looks like me. And because representation always matters. So that's a little bit what was a little bit more detail what the blog was for this week. And every week we have different subjects, and they've been for me. I think they've been really awesome, educational, and I have actually sent them out to some friends and family members over the last few weeks. So just to give them a little taste of like what we're doing and actually educate. Um, but enough about that. But get download the IME man, and you can just get. It's an interesting community. It's a safe space. So whereas though all your comments and your conversations are secure, and you can actually feel free to drop us a line, and actually maybe even if you are interested about certain subject and you think it's something that you might want us to blog about and actually get out to the community, that would be great. Love to hear from somebody that is actually in the community or on the allies. Like we're open here because everybody's voice matters. I want to go into before we get to the actual detailed subject um, and have a conversation about being an ally and having an uncomfortable conversation. And there's some of the kind of ridicule that you can get from being an ally and being pro the community and not being homophobic. I want to discuss the bill that has been passed. Well, it's a bill. It's not law yet. I want to be specific like that. Little background for people that don't know about me. I'm very big into politics. Um, as a hobby of mine, as a lifestyle, I think that is, and I've always been this way since I was a teenager. At one point, I wanted to actually run for public office, but those days way, way back. Nah. But over the last couple of years, and I think a lot of us have found ourselves doing this, especially with the current administration and since 2000, I have kind of like neutralized myself from being into the day to day discourse of politics for just my mental health. Um, so I am not into it the day to day grind, but I make it a note that I have certain podcasts and certain, I follow certain people in the industry so I can still get my information. Now, everybody may have known about this big bill, big, beautiful bill, as 47 was talking. And the alarm from it was basically, it's basically a tax cut for billionaires. And in order to pay for these things, you always have to cut something in order to balance the budget and pay for certain. So the main thing is basically $1 trillion is going to be cut from Medicaid and all that surrounds that. And then SNAP benefits are going to be cut. It's very and when you dig into it, and if you dig into it, SNAP benefits cover, when you break it down per meal, SNAP benefits right now is $2.07 per meal per person. With this, which we know $2.07 is not a lot, especially in this economy. And you probably only can get what one or two eggs with $2.07. But this bill now takes that $2.07 per person and cuts it to $1.60. Now these are already the most food insecure people in the country. The same thing when it comes to Medicaid. Now we may actually have a lot of different thoughts about Medicaid, and the propaganda over the years is that Medicaid is for people that are just bums and just sit on their asses and don't do anything. And that is totally untrue. Medicaid, especially because, well, it may have been like that in the 80s and maybe the 90s, but Medicaid, the way it is actually designed, and people, it's plenty of working people that need Medicaid and use Medicaid. And especially when it comes to the CHIPS program, which is the Children's Health Insurance Program under Medicaid, whereas though you may only pay a certain copay or pay a monthly price for your child to have these coverage. The old saying that I would like to use is when white people get a cold, black people get, and this always rings true. But now, other than just black people getting pneumonia, or let's if black people get pneumonia, the LGBT community is getting bronchitis, the black plague. Um, this bill is passed because it goes to the just a little education. It goes to the Senate now, and if it actually gets killed in the Senate, then it doesn't exist. That's basically how a bill becomes a law. It actually has it gets voted in by one chamber, the other chamber has to also concur, and then it's some type of reconciliation come about. Over 13.7 million people would be affected, whereas though they would lose coverage. The LGBT community would actually be even affected more because why? Over 25% of adults are in poverty, comparative to 16% of heteros, straight people. And then it's just higher, just uh, food insecurity issue. And then when you talk about just looking at different studies over the last couple of years from like the Williams Institute at UCL and law school says over 13% of LGBT community people they rely on Medicaid. And out of that 13%, 180,000 are trans people. Now, let me tell you what happened just, and I was so surprised about this because I've been keeping up on this for the last 2 weeks. And then sometimes what happens in politics, especially when they do these late 1, 2 o'clock in the morning sessions, so whereas though you're not actually watching C-SPAN and you can't call your representatives or send letters or just protest, they do this stuff in the dead of night. They added 2 provisions to this bill. Now, what happens is this could have been a sweetener. So whereas though somebody may have said, listen, I'm not voting for this unless this goes into it. And one of the things that went into it was 2 things. Both of them were against the LGBT community. And both of them was against trans. One, trans people would not be qualified for any type of Medicaid, including trans adults and children with the beta because they won't use any type of gender affirming care. Even though naturally, all this the gender affirming care, when you go and look at the science and you talk to doctors, say that this is safe. There's nothing wrong with it. Is actually a positive thing, and medically is actually better for the people's lives. That's one. Going. No federal funds, no anything will be covered for gender affirming care for children or adults. The second part is about the ACH, Obamacare. That if you fall under this, then it's no longer be covered because now it's not an essential health benefit. So this is basically open war on the LGBT community, and then and even more on the trans community. A focus on basically wiping them out of existence. And I know that may sound very just I don't know doomsdayish, but they the MAGA movement and the policies that are put into place are basically going to kill people. And at the same time, it's just unfortunate that many people don't we just are selfish in a sense where as though if it doesn't affect me directly, then we don't pay attention to it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that voted like this past election and thought something was going to be better because they just voted about the economy from a businessman that's been bankrupt and all his life and that actually always loses money. But he's a businessman, which I don't understand. I'm from New Jersey, and his casino is in the ground. His schools are being sued, you know. But I don't want to get off on a tangent when you're dealing with the Trump conversation per se, but these things that I'm talking about is the key reason why allyship is important and by and actually fighting for these things because we all have to know. And even if we don't, well, if you're watching this in your ally, you do know people. You know people in the community. But I'm saying we all know people that are affected by SNAP or by Medicaid. I mean, true talk, I mean, I've been on both at some points in my life, and I've never been. I've always, sometimes I worked two jobs, but sometimes it was two minimum wage jobs, and with having health problems and having children and making sure that you want your children to be safe and healthy and get to doctors appointments. And a lot of times you say, well, if you work, you should just have insurance through your job. Some jobs don't offer health insurance, yet there's still jobs out there that's like that. And there are jobs that if they do offer health insurance, the premium that you would actually have to pay is so expensive that you can't daggone pay your rent. You can't do both. So automatically just assume that somebody is used who's on Medicaid and they're doing nothing is it's a falsehood. Um, and not to mention it's just a tax low income people. And I say low income people. And then whereas though it attacks black and brown people, minorities, and then people and LGBT. But out of this 13.7 million, that's they won't want to make you think that it's people that like me or that are people that are like when I say LGBT people, these are nothing in this country is on the books and the systems and programs are not in existence because of minorities. Majority of people we had to fight about it's about the welfare queens and things like that back then. The majority of people that's using these programs are white and they are the majority. And that's why it's and there a lot of them are in rural counties and small towns, and because they poor, they working class, and they voted for. They didn't think they was voting for this, but they voted for this. Um, the ALCU. I'm gonna end it with this, so then we're gonna get to our topic. But the ALCU, and this was crucial. The ALCU has said it's been over 575 anti-LGBT uh, proposal like laws in, throughout the states in this country in 2025 alone in the first 5 months. So We like to say, and it's true. IME, we're not a political action group. We don't take uh, any type of side on you know who you vote for and how you vote. But stop voting and stop supporting people that's not in your best interest. That's the crazy thing that I never understand when it comes to. I always had that problem with black people. And then I just had that problem with people that's in the community where as though they they think that they're voting for a certain thing, but you're supporting somebody that hates you. It doesn't want you to think you exist. And it's like all these things are coming to pass now. People are seeing the forest through the trees now. But that's my monologue for now of about that. And I think, I mean, you need, as I said, this is not law as of yet. Um, Wherever you are, I mean, this reach is anywhere around the country. You need to reach out to your senator, and if you have a senator that is on the fence and thinking about actually backing this law, you need to let them know how you feel, because at the end of the day, if people don't, your your elected officials work for you. They work for the people, and your voice can be heard. And then with phone calls constantly going over out and people pushing back about taking money from poor people and working class people, so billionaires can now not pay. Instead of having a tax-free $11 million house, they want to make it where as though they can have a tax-free 22 million house, $22 million house, if that's passed. This all these things cost you as a citizen. Maybe if it's not costing you directly out your pocket, it is costing you somehow around about, because what happens when these people are now uninsured and pull up to the emergency room and pull up to the hospital? What happens where as though these people in the community who already have food insecurity and housing insecurity, if these programs and these things go away? It's not easy being an ally. It can be frustrating, and that'll move into like the topic that we'll talk about tonight. You know, its challenges, and is actually can be rather hard actually defending a whole community, and you may be looked upon as like the outcast in your own family, your friend group, things like that. But I look at it as where as though I'm fighting a good fight. And it's just, I don't even look at it like that. It's just like being humane and being a good neighbor. It doesn't take much. Um, but I want to bring in, I want to have a conversation, so somebody can hear something other than just hear from me. But we want to talk about, the challenges of like beating back stereotypes about homophobia and actually having those uncomfortable conversations during the holidays around the Thanksgiving dinner. at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and or maybe even just actually having conversation with a stranger or a coworker, and the do's and the don'ts of like actually doing that. So, Paris, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I know. I got on my soapbox, but this bill is just really. I did not know about the LGBT component until the day, and I was already just upset about it. And like, because like I said, it's somebody. If it doesn't, it's somebody we know that this affects.
Hmm.
It's somebody. It's a loved one. It's a friend. I mean, especially even by doing this work the last few years, I know people that's had, you know, this care, this, and I know how much it makes a difference out of a person's life when they actually are who they are inside. You know what I mean? Just really, it's thrown it back. But I don't know if you wanted to give your opinion on the bill or how you was feeling about it, or do you want to just talk about the topic?
My opinion, then we could talk about the topic. I looked at it as medical, I guess genocide. If I can't stop you, I'm a essentially kill you. I'm killing
Hmm.
everything about you. I've already taken away your right to have your name change and you being able to present yourself how you would like to be presented, physically and on paper. So I'm killing you. It's death to that person. The only thing I pray for is that they're strong enough not to do the physical piece of it.
Hmm.
That's what scares me.
Yeah.
It really scares me. But I'm hoping, especially the trans community, that they actually have a supportive environment. We're a social organization, not necessarily political, and I believe that no matter what the politics are, if we can socially be there for one another, then we could work on the rest. But when you don't have that social support system and you're not changing anything, that's where you feel the most effects of it. Sort of like the black experience. We know that there are
Yeah.
racists out there. We know that they're continuously trying to revert back to they are revert back to the 50s. They
I
may
think they trying to get to the 20s now.
yeah, to slavery at this point.
I think they getting all the way back to.
But
Before I thought it was gonna be the 60s and the 50s. Now it
right,
just looked like the 20s and maybe the 1800s.
right. But now, but because we have our social environments, we don't feel that sting of it as much. It's sort of like we have a protective layer unless you're actually in white spaces or live in communities that's predominantly white. You and I grew up in predominantly black neighborhoods, so we were kind
Right.
of sheltered. So, you
Yeah.
know, social environments are very, very, very important. And I just hope for the community as a whole, you have that shelter around you, that community around you, because you're gonna need it. You're really gonna
Yeah.
need it. But you can go ahead on and introduce your topic.
Okay. Topic like I'm saying. Uh, I like the challenges of being a ally and combating homophobia and having those uncomfortable conversations.
How to
Um,
diffuse the conversation, how to diffuse homophobic conversation.
how to diffuse the homophobic conversations. Um, it was so interesting because sometimes it's just my sister. A lot of times I bring up my sister, but she had the same issue just a couple Thanksgivings ago with her favorite uncle, using the homophobic slur as the F word, which and saying it bright and loud. And she was in the bathroom and she just heard it, and it was just like, it just struck something in her soul. And it's so interesting because you can automatically just say they're from a different generation. They're like he wasn't using it that way. You know what he meant, but she had the conversation. It's just like, no, you cannot use that word. You can't say that. We don't do that anymore. That you can't just. It's not a throwaway line. As it was just actually a slur in a sense, whereas though using it as a pejorative, but you are saying something hateful and like explaining that to him. And he backed down like, okay, okay, okay. But did he actually really get it? I don't, probably not. But at that point, nobody in the house was in the community or from the community, but she was an ally to the true extent by trying to say, yo, this shit ain't funny. No one's saying anything like this is like, y'all know he's wrong. Why is nobody okay? So I gotta be the one to say something,
Mm.
you know? And I think that can be very uncomfortable, but but in a sense where as though she jumped in there because she felt as though it was just a reaction. But in a lot of situations, we can't automatically just do that. Maybe in family gatherings because it's not going to come to blows or any type of violence or things like that. Yes, but in our IME app, we have an ally packet, and it actually will show you. It gives you steps on having these conversations, and if you should actually go forward. Like, I often have these not uncomfortable for me, but it's uncomfortable for the person I have them at work. I may have them. I may have them in a restaurant. Like, it's just sitting in line, and a lot of times you funny. It's funny, Pierre. It's like because the way I present myself and the way I look, and it's like people, I'm masculine. So people just may automatically just assume that I'm down to just be misogynist, you know, talk about, you know, the gay community and just have a little bit laugh about, you see certain female and you say certain things, or you see somebody that might be in the community and then they just say stuff to you. And this is the positive thing about being an ally is sometimes you are in a little stealth mode that they don't know that you not for their shenanigans. I often have had these conversations on a bus when I'm public, and I don't feel because of my stature or whatever. I don't feel threatened in a way that I can't have these conversations. That's not for everybody. But there are steps that you could have used to have these conversations that we have on our website to talk about. But the biggest thing for me is if you don't feel safe having these discussions, where the, because you may feel as though you're going to be, and it says in the pack, if you feel as though you're going to be ridiculed or you may be threatened or this, that, and other, it's best to just disengage. But at the most, you let them like, yo, that's not funny. I don't get down. Or and you maybe walk away from the situation. Because I'm gonna tell you this much. Personally, I don't like being around people that are that way because I don't like dealing being around ignorant people.
They don't like
Now,
homophobia. That's what
huh?
they don't like
Yeah,
homophobic people.
I don't. But I don't like homophobic, but I just don't like ignorant. I don't like ignorant people because a lot of times it comes from not knowing stuff. And like
Hmm.
I became educated. I was never homophobic. I just was a quote unquote good neighbor. I just, but no, I'm, and I think that's the concept of where these talks are. If you're a good neighbor, you respect people, but you don't go into the deep and dark and into everything like, oh, hey, how you doing? But once being part of the organization and actually being around people in the community, and then going back out in the real regular world and being outside these safe spaces and being around people that don't know, and then they have these stereotypical thoughts. I had to have this conversation the other day about, yo, gay dudes don't want you. They don't they don't look at you like that. I've been around plenty of gay men. Well, at least they don't want me. Okay, they don't come up. I've never had any come and make a pass at me or anything like that. Like we had, and I don't feel any type of uncomfortable around when I'm around gay because it's always funny to me that men, a lot of their coolest friends, their best friends, it's like stud lesbians.
Not a
Right
lot
or
of
wrong?
men. Not a lot.
Huh? Well,
Not
I
a
mean,
lot.
I not okay. Now, okay, I'm not going to say a lot, but I see men more comfortable. At least they more comfortable being around, and I'm just like, it's weird.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
not
no,
weird.
no, no. Oh no, not that it's not the problem. It's not I'm not nodding my head to what you're saying. A lot of men are not I'm not gonna say a lot of men because I can't speak for the white community. I can only speak for our community as
All
a
right, you're
black
right.
woman. A
Right.
lot of black men are homophobic.
Oh,
And
oh, oh, I know that.
uh, it's a big thing. And just
Majority of the men in my family are.
and let's just go into the topic. When we
Yes.
decided on this topic, how to diffuse homophobic situations, and when I created the flyer because I'm the flyer person.
Yeah.
Um, Again, we're a social nonprofit. I believe society plays a big, big role in it. And I would say maybe 2 years ago, the climate didn't feel as homophobic. The air didn't feel like the way it feels now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the homophobic slurs weren't flying around like they are now. Um, Actually, in my lifetime, I feel like it's more tension than it was when I was a child back in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, because I felt it was more accepted. But now it's just it's real heavy. And I think it's a combination, like we had on the fly. I think it's a combination of hip hop and the Diddy trial for us culturally black people. And then Trump coming with all these policies against. And I think, it's just an uptake in homophobia in our community. I can say, as I work, as a nurse during the day, not in the hospital, in home. And when you work in an in-home environment, you get to hear all the little juicy, detailed things, the sickening. You get to see all the stuff about people. And all I hear in reference to the Diddy trial and even to like the TikTok videos about fashion, all I hear since Trump, since Diddy is faggot this. What do they call what else? Fun boy that. That's all I hear.
Fun boy.
Fun boy, yes.
Okay.
Like this. I don't want these dykes in my house. I don't want no fun boys around me. I don't want these Diddy doo wop bops around. When I put Diddy on the flyer, it's like he has become the poster child for gay people. He is the poster. He is the representative. This is what gay is. This is what it means. When you're gay, you behave like Diddy. You have a hatred for women. That's why you're beating them like he beat Cassie in the hallway. Because in their minds, he's suffering from internalized homophobia. And this is why he's going out and he's raping men. And this is why he's making innuendos in the hip hop music, because he's trying to turn other men gay. And this is why he's raping them. And because of all of this, and our community, forgive me, white people, because this is kind of like a Black Center show right now. I think this is why our community, the Black men, because for us, hip hop was our savior. We looked at it as a form of
Representation. Getting out.
representation, financial, some type of financial stability,
Ability.
legacy. And with Diddy and the gay, him being bisexual, gay, whatever he is, his sexuality, they can't seem to separate it from the acts. So I feel like that's why we have this explosion of homophobia. That's why I feel like I don't even remember the percentage of Black men and women that voted for Trump. I feel like that's
It's less.
the reason.
It was more than what usual, but it was still less
It's
than
still
10%.
enough to sell out. I would rather have my pride and dignity as a man than to have my liberties and rights. That is just so bizarre to me. So
But that they played the game right. We had this conversation offline, but there's no way in the world he should have won Philadelphia.
I
But they
know.
won Pennsylvania, and they won because they kept on running trans trans commercials during Sunday night football. And that's when millions, it's just a high population of daggone people in bars, at home, it's that number. And you would see at least three times
Uh-huh.
during the 3 hours. I seen them.
And so think
And I
about
picked up on it.
the Diddy trial. Every time you see a headline, it says Diddy and homosexual acts, homosexual this, homosexual that. And then when you get on now, okay, so non-Black people, we have this thing in our community called the cipher, right? A cipher. You know how we get together, we used to build information and we learn from each other. If you don't believe that social media has an impact on communities, you're crazy. Because all it is an online cipher, but you have the opportunity to engage millions and billions of people. So I like
Mhm.
to frequent those spaces to find out What is the group idea? What are we pushing? And right now, again, I know I'm harping on this, but that Diddy thing is pushing, is giving, being gay is bad, being a homosexual is bad. We can't separate the act from his sexuality. And it's crazy. It's really, really crazy. And when I enter these rooms, just like I enter my job, just like I could enter a different space, it's sort of like I'm not wanted in there, because the conversation, I just can't jump in and say, okay, I feel this way about the activities he was doing. I feel like he's a rapist. He can't just be a rapist. He can't just be a sex trafficker. He has to be the gay sex trafficker. He has to be the fun boy. He has to be the fun boy. Whatever it is he's doing, the fun boy batter, a woman beater, the fun boy sex trafficker, the fun boy rapist. Whereas Harvey Weinstein
Mm.
was just the rapist. And again, I'm bringing this up because I think as a good neighbor, we have to put potential allies in a perspective to understand where we coming from, where I'm coming from as a LGBTQ plus person. And you know what? Harvey Weinstein is a great way for me to explain it and how we feel at this moment. Imagine if Harvey Weinstein was Harvey Weinstein, the heterosexual rapist, right? And you go into your workspaces, you go into the bank, you go onto these online platforms, because that's your escape. A lot of times we like to put our earphones on and listen. And you go in there and you hear people saying, "Oh, Harvey Weinstein, that hetero Harvey Weinstein raped 20 women. What the hell is wrong with that heterosexual bastard? We got to do something about this heterosexual. You know what? We got to get this heterosexual. We don't want this heterosexual to be able to get married. We don't want these heterosexual. Why should heterosexuals be able to get Medicaid and CHIP for your medical needs to take care of yourself, and you doing all of this stuff? This is what it feels like for us. One gay person does something, and it's not that this man committed this act and he's a rapist and this is the law for rapists. No, we want to eliminate, we want to chastise the whole gay community. And in these ciphers, these are the conversations. And this is why you have people feeling uncomfortable. This is why you have people running to their politicians. Oh, we can't let these fun boys, well, they probably don't call us fun boys in front of politicians, right? We can't let them get no more headway. We can't let them get into school and educate our children. We can't let them do this. We can't let them do that, because we letting a bunch of diddies run around. But no one's saying when a heterosexual person runs around, oh, we letting a bunch of Weinsteins run around. Imagine that, Dion. You walk into your job and a bunch of women like, oh, we don't want no food from that heterosexual man. Weinstein raped all them women. Get these heterosexual men out of here. That is, our experience. And the reason why this topic is so important is because just by simply diffusing these conversations, we could possibly reach some people and reason with them. And maybe we'll have more people on our side when it's time to vote. It's all of this is just social than politics. I don't
And
think
it used to
people
be a
realize
day when we was growing up, those two things weren't the same thing. They didn't meet.
it. They do meet. They
Two,
do.
but they didn't meet because in a sense where as though when you were a conservative, and some people may be economic conservative, but socially more progressive and liberal. Whereas though I hear conservatives say, they have gay friends, or they may have a gay daughter, or they for certain rights, but they still vote against their a vote for administration or these policies is still against your daughter or your best friend, and they don't see it that way.
because they can't distinguish sexuality from actions.
Right. And I mean, when it comes to this whole, the crazy thing is, Diddy might wind up getting off. And I know this has nothing to do with that, but because it seems like the prosecution is actually prosecuting is what he like to do, his sexuality. But you can't just his preferences for sex. They got to dig into the more about the abuse and being,
Just the crime itself.
trafficking, and it's like these is a lot of the whole bisexual and stuff that shouldn't even. That's getting all the highlights, and that is truly not even the true essence of his evil. From what I mean, alleged evil.
Yeah,
Alleged is alleged stuff.
but you talk about social trials. We have
Yeah,
you have your trial, and then you have social trials.
and you know what? That's one of the things that I hate about our community as black. We just, and I mentioned it last week, and like you mentioned it here tonight. It's just like black men are so fucking homophobic. It's like, uh, they can. I don't know if because they half-ass fucking Muslims, or they Bible thumping Christians, or I don't know what it is, but it's just like when you actually you have a conversation with somebody that's not ignorant, and don't they they fall into their book, even when they actually have relationships, professional relationships, or whatever. But they know people that is a part of the community. And they show up to their, but they say, I can't. Shit, the goddamn president that everybody praised was against gay marriage. Everybody forgot that, don't they? He wasn't. He wasn't for gay marriage until the tides and the polls. What? Wait, I'm talking out of pocket until the polls said it was good. Then he was like, "Yeah, I'm down with it." But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's another black man. It just ain't. And I'm pretty sure he probably had plenty of staff members or whatever that was in the community. Plenty of people that voted for him. I'm just saying. The real true champion for daggone gay people is that man that they just diagnosed with prostate cancer. He was the true champion for gay rights. An old white Catholic. Now that may be just my opinion, but that's what's on. That's he told Obama about. No, you got to come to gay marriage. You got to come on. Just saying. Your allies don't always gotta look like you, or even be in the same generation as you, or but they a lot of times they just know right from right. And I know this, and you know this because our last daggone event we had down at the Library. It was a lot of a lot
Ally.
of grays, a lot of gray hair, a lot of blue eyes and green eyes,
All
and
right.
they're like, you know,
I agree.
when is it going to be where as though we as a people can just stop being ignorant and stupid, because the truth of the matter is, if you're black, you already got an issue. Now, being, and I always say this about the women that's on, you black, you're a woman, and you LGBT. You got it. You got 3 times. It's hard.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
You ousted from society, from greater society, then you ousted from your own.
on to your
So
own clique of
it's
society, you may be ousted from your family, your friends, and is it who chooses this? This is a conversation that my sister was.
that's
Who chooses this?
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah,
That could be a
but
whole nother show.
yeah, but no one about choosing it, or actually being born and all this other. That's why I always scoff at, especially when it on social media or something like that. When I see a female say, "I'm tired of these men. I'm switching teams." Word, for real. That's how.
Where you switch it to?
Right. Yeah. I'm switching. Word, for real.
Let's
If
talk about.
that's the that if that's the case, you already had those tendencies, and you had this that. Don't make it where it's. I hate when people, and it's, I don't want to get into that, but people like that, like it's a choice.
We get
These
into a tangent. You be
No, I'm sorry, because I get up, because these is conversations that I have with people, and it makes me upset, because I've had these discussions with people that are, straight. They just, well, if they choose to have that lifestyle, that's on them. Lifestyle.
well. Let's talk about how do
Ha,
we because I know people are jumping on and off, and they probably like, well,
yeah,
you talk about different things. Let's
yeah.
talk about how do you diffuse these homophobic conversations. How do you handle it? We do have a list that's inside the IME app,
Yeah.
but for me, being in the community, it is important as an ally that you do take a stand. Um, I've always believed one person at a time we could change things. I've have experience with that within the community because we can be um transphobic, LGB.
Mm,
And I've encountered LGB being transphobic, and I've had conversations, um and I could see the improvement. I could see where they've changed from that simple conversation. So how do we diffuse that? Especially since we're in a climate where we have Trump running amok, we got Diddy running amok. How do we diffuse that? We do have a list here,
yeah, we have a list that's on the.
and it's also in the app,
Yeah.
but we could put some additionals onto it. And it says, assess the environment that you're in. Of
Yeah.
course, you know, I hear mine a lot at work, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily in my household, not necessarily in my neighborhood, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily in my extracurricular stuff, because I mostly do nonprofit stuff where it's safe to be who I am.
Right.
But inside my workplace, I don't know about you. I hear again, when I come in because of this Diddy trial, I hear this faggot, this, that, and the third, and I'll walk into that. And my
Mm,
coworkers have to listen to that too. And
mm,
I work with a group of heterosexual women, and they aren't homophobic. So one of the tactics that I saw from one of my coworkers, she would just kind of change the subject.
Hmm.
But for me, being, the founder of I Am Me, I feel like it's my duty that I have to try to correct this because y'all just keep running on and on and on. And I've noticed since I've been doing these corrections, the mom don't necessarily say homophobic stuff around me, but it's still a little bit of work with the other ones. But what I would do, like the list says, you assess the environment. Fine, I go to the same space, so I know it's a safe space for me to kind of speak my mind.
Right.
Um, and then the second says, before speaking up, evaluate your surroundings. Make sure you're not in a space where it's physically and emotionally unsafe for you to speak out. If you are unsafe, you think you're going to be bullied, you think it's going to turn into a major altercation, don't say anything at all in that situation. Or do like my coworker does. She just kindly changes the subject. They could be saying, like, one time, what did she say? Um, I don't know why that faggot doing all of this stuff to those women. He don't like fucking women anyway. That's why he's doing it. My coworker simply was like, well, that's a Diddy thing. I don't know if that necessarily has anything to do with his sexuality, but where is such and such? I need this for the patient. So you could kind of redirect the person out of that conversation if you really can't, you feel like you can't reach them, and you feel like it's going to turn into an argument. But if it's not going to turn into an argument, like in the case of the mom, she was watching a music video, and what's his name? Shamar. I think his name is Shamar, the you ever heard of Shamar? He's
No. Is this
gay.
a newfangled kid?
No,
I
he's
don't
a
know
gay
nothing.
content creator. He's a disabled gay content creator.
Oh, okay. I know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he was singing this song, and she was like, "Look at him, look at him. This faggot making all this money." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, I said, no, I said to her, I said, damn, he doing his thing. But I don't think it's because he's homosexual. I think it's just because he's entertaining. And I don't have anything against gay people at all into being in entertainment. In fact, I got gay people in my family. I don't have an issue with that. So he go ahead on and do him. So after I said that, I've never heard her mention or say anything homophobic to me. But a couple of my coworkers have said that she actually came up to them and was like, she was on a trip and it was a bunch of faggots there. And then my coworker said to her, well, who cares? Gay people have a right to go on vacation too. My best friend go on vacation all the time. So she doesn't speak to her about people being gay. You kind of like shut them down. But in a case where a person is willing to hear you out after you kind of shut them down, like this says, I don't support homophobia, or I don't think that's funny. Don't say that around me. Like I said, I don't have an issue with gay people doing them. After you said that, if the person seems like they're listening or they open, just kind of educate them about what they're saying. Like I told you, she was saying, look, he up there dancing, why he up there, whatever, whatever. Well, gay people can't dance. I don't need, he's making money. I don't think it got anything to do with him being gay. He's entertaining. Redirect some of that stuff, especially that Diddy stuff. Like, even when I frequent chat rooms, online chat rooms on YouTube, what is it, Black YouTube, Black Twitter, I don't have a problem calling up to your show and expressing how I feel. When you get on there and you say, oh, Diddy, he's a this, he's a fun boy, or what was the other guy with the video, the young boy? He had the whole video of him dancing with Satan. Um,
Um,
Little Nas
Little
X,
Nas X.
when that was a big thing. He don't deserve to be performing. He shouldn't be making music. Well, why not? Why, I don't have anything against Little Nas X making music because he's a gay man. You don't like that he's dancing with the devil? Well, maybe you should have an issue with that. But then again, you have to have an issue with rock and roll.
Yeah, or yeah, metal, and then what?
Heavy metal, yes. Because
Marilyn Manson,
yes.
and you know,
And so that kind of make people think about what you're singing, because at the beginning of the broadcast, I told you when LGBT people do stuff, it becomes a gay and then this act, a gay singer, a gay chef, a gay hairstylist. But when a heterosexual person is doing something, they're just that person doing it and it doesn't reflect on the whole heterosexual community.
and this is, I mean, not to cut you off. This is where I interject with an allyship of where as though coming from the black perspective as being a street, but like, yo, y'all don't see the similarities. They did this to us.
Very
They
similar.
did this to our people. So why would you not automatically? I can't. Don't give me real. Don't give me religious reasons. Don't give me any type of reasons of words. Though you've been shitted on. Your people. If you haven't directly been shitted on, you know for a fact that people in your family from your you are descendants of slavery. If you've not directly been to the, you are still descendant of the systematic destruction and discombobulation of your people as a whole. And you are systematically been a second class citizen
Mm-hmm.
until the last 60 years, and you can still maybe on paper you've not been a second class citizen. But this is the open things that they would say about people of color. No, I'm
Yes.
sorry, black people.
Yeah.
Because everything that black people went through and for everybody else got CC'd. So where's the no, I'm still
They
and
got
Asian people, if
CC'd
they
in the
want to,
benefits.
you got the benefits of the black people struggle because everything got you got CC'd on everything. And that's why it disgusts me because like they look down, they people whatever race you are, whatever if you are the dark portion of that Puerto Rico, and I again another tangent, but this falls back to Alice. When you are black and you are black in any culture and they have lighter skin parts of those are always the ones in favor. Darker people, Afro Hispanics, Afro Latino, when you are a dark, they look down upon.
You gotta break it
That's
back.
why I always feel like, why can't black people see if you can't see it
They can't see
even
the correlation. They're not gonna
they,
see.
they,
They
but
can't
it's this
see it.
they don't want you in their bathrooms. They don't want you with their water fountains. Does any of this sound familiar?
And
Any
that
of
is
it?
the gay experience. The gay experience is the new black experience. But to even further, we just said, why do black men do not like gay people? And you just sparked a whole idea in my head. When you have been a underdog for so long, you have a white man shitting on you, you have white woman, racist woman shitting on you, not all.
Yeah, I hear you.
As a black man, who do you have to shit on? The only person under you is a gay black man, and it makes you feel good that you above somebody.
Yeah. I, that's a whole nother thing, but it's you partially true because let's just look at that's what happens in politics. You always gotta blame somebody. I'm not gay. These daggone gay people and taking this from me because and half you motherfuckers don't even pay taxes. And you talk about your tax, but I get upset when people say my taxes go to this. I know what my I know is. I know people that really have their fucking tax. You don't pay no goddamn taxes. And but anyway,
Let's go back to
my
the list.
list, please.
Yeah, so we basically, if the person is open for you to have this discussion with them while you are trying to diffuse this homophobic conversation, um educate them, give them some fun
Mm-hmm.
facts, give them some tips depending on what they're what they're saying. Make it relational. For our people, it has to be um relational.
Correlation of being
Yeah,
what they
of
did
what the
to
conversation,
kind
otherwise it'll fly over their head. They'll miss it. They'll completely
yeah,
miss it. Another thing, this list is very vague and it's generalized so that anyone could go online to the app and use it.
yeah.
But also in our community, I will not put it there, but you have to gauge it. Sometimes we have this thing in our community called sometimes you got to cut the shit short. You got to cut them short for them to get it. And what that looks like for non POC people is when the person is just so outlandish, you know they're not harmful, and you just got to cut them short. Like one time I was at work, and what did the aunt say? She said something about gay women.
Mm-hmm.
um I wouldn't want a bunch of gay women working in my house. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want them looking at me. And I said, well, how do you know the gay women ain't here doing what you won't do? And what is that? Taking care of your children. Sometimes you got to cut them short, you know. And another one of my fun lines when they say something about people being gay, because again, I hear it a lot. I'll say, well, you know what? Um, No, one time she said gay men are always online twerking. I said, the ones that I know be out there fighting for your right to sit on that couch. That's what you call cutting them short to make them think. But you only could do that in certain situations
Mm-hmm.
to make them think. And when I said that to her and she was laying on that couch, she had to think about it, you know, because my partner gets up every morning. And despite the amount of hatred she receives, and she knows people feel some kind of way about her, she gets up and fight for your liberties. She gets up and fight. Her biggest bill is probation reform. And that benefits who? Black men.
People, black men.
Majority that
Yeah.
has a hatred. But you know what? I guess her being in that space and them seeing her there and her having these conversations with them also helps, you know. But that's coming from an LGBT perspective. But allies, speak up. I'm sharing my experience because I navigate the world where, I guess I'm in stealth form. So people assume that I'm an ally. No one ever really asks me, are you a part of the community? Assume I'm an ally. I probably carry myself like an ally. When I hear negative things, I cut it short. Like the list says, if I can educate you, I will. And I feel like that is my duty. And I feel like if the majority of the people that scream ally does this, I
Hmm.
think we will see a lot of change.
Substantial change.
Yes. 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 It we got to have these conversations. We can't just, and I know you noticed, Dion, we can't expect for everybody to huddle at the ACLU or all these other
Hmm.
political organizations and
Yeah.
push back on these bills and get things passed for you to have all these rights and think that you're going to come home and homophobia is just going to go away because you don't force some law. That's just not how it works. We got to start doing the work on a social level. We got to start having these conversations. We got to start putting homophobic people in perspective. We have to, we got it. I know we don't want to. It seems like a lot. It's to me, it's more work to do social stuff than it is for me to go sit in a room, talk to a politician, and get some votes. It's harder to get out here to actually
To
one
get every
on
Tom, Dick, and
yeah
Harry and
and
actually give
engage.
the,
Yeah,
the regular person on the street. And as an ally, I think the key way to do it is you got. I'm saying it all the time, and I'm saying it again. People are selfish. See how it affects. Like, so you have to be comparative to how it affects them and how they may have been persecuted, and how just like you know, being a woman, being that it's gender persecution. Or, being a person of color, you know, being discriminated against, and, even if you have any type of privilege of being a man, but it's being a black man, you know, there's no privilege in that.
it is.
It's I mean it's privilege of them killing you.
Yeah, but you don't
But
realize
I mean comparative. I'm sorry.
you don't realize. See, no, it's not. Privilege as a black man when you're up against I guess the white society, but there is privilege being a black man when you're up against the community. That
I'm
that's the
I,
that's the privilege right there. These men have the privilege to forego and not even have to acknowledge that they're heterosexual. Is just understood. And
right.
everything about a gay man is not. So that is the privilege. And as an ally, maybe that's where what we have to make allies understand. You have a privilege. You have a privilege to walk on this earth and not concern yourself with your sexuality. The only time sexuality should come up in a conversation is if you're talking about dating. Why is it for us it comes up uh, just
In
about
everyday life, in
everything?
existence.
Look, I got a gay hairdo. My glasses is gay. My shirt is gay. You see that gay shirt? You see them gay looking glasses? But on you, it's just glasses. It's just a hairdo. It's just that. And we got to change that.
And
Uh,
it sounds like the same thing as where you just substitute gay with black. So this is why it's been said before. Blackity black.
so I
Black.
guess we need to have a
It
live stream about that. We need to talk. There needs to be a live stream about privilege. Tonight we talking about how to diffuse conversations, and that's great. That's a start. Um, But then we need to talk about oh, it's up there, educate. If they're open to educate, and then it says educational tips blog coming soon. Maybe the next live stream need to be, need to talk about how to educate people from what frame of reference. Help people understand that you come from a space of privilege and you're taking it for granted and you're abusing other people. When you don't like our community, you don't like the abuse yourself. It's unreal. This live is taking like different turns, but it's so much to unpack when it comes to the black community. It's so much pain
Yeah,
to unpack.
it's just it's so much disrespect, and it's like we in the '60s when Malcolm started the coalition, and they said it didn't matter if you was Christian, if you was Muslim, Baptist, it didn't matter. It was just because you was black,
Couldn't join
you
it if you
know.
was gay.
And I'm sure it was plenty. I'm sure,
You couldn't
but
be out
the,
gay and
you
join that.
know you couldn't. But guess what? The craziest thing is homosexuality goes back to BC times. It's just always been in existence. And it's so crazy because when you watch, even when you shit, you watch Game of Thrones, and that was in the what, the 11 to the 1200s or whatever. It's like it's always been like it's people think it's so crazy. Like people think in the last 10, 15 years with all because of legislation and things like that, like if there's hasn't been any gay people. That's the craziest thing with the laws that they set that say no, they love to say no gay laws, and all these states that passed, the 20 states that passed these against LGBT education and things like that. And what do they think? It's no gay people in Idaho? Did you know it's no gay people in Mississippi? I don't know how in the world there's no gay people in Ohio. I don't. Ohio doesn't have gay people. I don't. And the
Mm.
craziest thing, and I'm sure you know this, and our viewers need to know this, is like just like Jim Crow and the Great Migration, there are a lot of people in the community that are packing up and leaving these states and going to states with more friendlier gay rights
Delaware,
laws.
Delaware, Delaware. They're heading to Delaware. I
It's
see
just
it.
really New Jersey and California,
PA.
lot of the Oregon, the ones out west. But this is we done seen this before. I wish these people. Obama wasn't my president. I wasn't a teenager or a 12-year-old when Obama was president. So I still know what before the post racism and before the kumbayas. But I will tell you and say this: Obama said because of Obama and because of the, the explosion with the pandemic from George Floyd, that's how we got here with this total transformation.
Yes.
And it total because to the people in power, and even the bum asses that aren't in power, but because they had the right tone, skin tone, Y'all doing too much. They putting gay people on commercials. They put it's so funny. The little small thing, and I know we're gonna go through this next week. And this is a little
Propaganda. It's called propaganda.
yeah, yeah, it is. But representation matters in a sense where it's though if you see yourself on that big screen or on that little screen right there, then you know that you can make it or be. But was
No,
it?
that is
It was all about money.
it's that is our version of it.
Yeah,
Seeing ourselves on television makes us feel like we're a part of the culture and we're being represented and you're seeing a different light. For a heterosexual person, it's advertised propaganda letting them know or feel, making them feel that we're infiltrating their families and we're coming to take over and convert people.
no, see, see, you're talking about a homophobe. I'm
Yeah.
talking about when I look and
No,
I
when
brought
the
this up.
ally look,
I didn't, but I see, I looked at it where as though there was never any commercial anymore on television that just had one just straight white person. It was always people of color or gay couples or people. It was interracial. There was, and I just like it looked more diverse. It was more diversity in it.
but
And
I'm glad you brought that up because again, that falls within this topic. When you see something like that, and I have been again in a home where
yeah,
a gay person will be on TV and they'll say, "Oh man, why they putting this faggot up there, or why they putting this dyke up there?" And that is the opportunity again for an ally. Another example for you to have a conversation. Representation count.
position man,
This
that
is not an attack on you. This
right
is what this looks like. I know
because these people exist.
we're
This is reality.
this topic here can go. It's maybe we're not. It's deep. Diffusing homophobic conversations. It's deep because you would literally have to redirect something simple as walking down the street and seeing two gay people and somebody. Why are these faggots in our neighborhood? You have to redirect that. You have to redirect seeing a gay person on television. You'll be spending so much time in redirect having these conversations. It's unbelievable. But it has to be done. And I guess the next few shows we're gonna have to spend arming people with the conversation
Ammunition and
pieces
devices
to
and
be able
tools.
to address it.
Address certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, because that I mean it's this it's everyday things. Going to the grocery store. Okay. Where would you hear homophobic conversation? With your friend, going to the grocery store, watching the television, in your workplace, walking in, talk about world issues. You will go online and you listen to your favorite podcaster. They saying homophobic stuff that you gotta probably type in the comments that ain't good, or if they got a call up show, you call in and try to redirect that.
Because they sitting there saying pause.
What other play? It's converse, or when you go into I don't know, address somebody law-based things, advocacy, you might have to redirect people in there. That is, what I
and
would love to see the
and
allies
then it's
do.
just so it's nerve wracking and it's just so because it used to be whereas though we had a decorum. We like we wouldn't say certain things in public. We would use proper terms. And now it's just whereas though people just are just blatantly just saying slurs. Like in regular conversation. I mean, um, and not even because you wouldn't even say when they even use. I know one of the, those people, those alphabet people.
Oh, I
You know,
hear that a lot.
you know what I mean? Just like those alphabet. Oh,
The
the
alphabet community.
alphabet people.
Uh-huh.
Just like
They
I'm
go
like,
the ABCD people. I've heard that
yeah.
too. The ABCD people. They're always out to do this. It's a lot of work. Allies, it's a lot of work for you to do. You'll be in those spaces. Like I said, I
And you'd be surprised. Yeah, I done had to have conversations with with people that potential allies of somebody. I had case in point. I would constantly have to train a mom to say call her trans son by the trans son preferred name, and it was constantly redirected in a sense, whereas though when we would have the conversation and they she would use her born name and I would correct her
right,
like and it's just like, oh, I'm working on it, I'm working on it. I'm like, yeah, but you got to do better.
right,
This is your child.
right.
Like respect them. Like you need to do better.
And the
And it's just like
pronoun
they didn't get
thing.
it. Yeah, and it's just like now. This is 5 years ago. Like over the year, like the last. I mean, I haven't talked. The last time I talked to her, a few months ago, she was she had it down packed, and he she would say he's doing well, he's doing this, he's working here, and like has a family, a wife and a couple kids, through you know a donor and stuff like that. But it's so it, she was one that said gay people just had too much. They just getting too much. They
Yes.
just yeah, Joe. This is the and I was like, how are you saying this when you got a trans son? Like, yo, what do you mean? Now they got a daggone ice cream shop or ice cream flavor or some shit. Some shit. I was like, what? It was like some type of I don't know what it was like an ice cream flavor or something. This, that, and the other. And I'm like, that just sounds like capitalism. Somebody trying to make some money off the
9 times out of 10, it wasn't a gay person that
person. That's
created.
exactly,
Because if it was,
exactly.
and the whole media blitz going on, how dare they make an ice cream? How dare they do this? It's
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
you'd be surprised. I've had friends of mine call me because they've had children that came out, or they married into they have stepchildren, a stepchild that is part of the community, and they just want to know how to maneuver and handle things, and they have questions, and it's just like, and granted, I don't have all the Lord, I don't have all the answers, but I'm just like, yo, the biggest thing that I always say is talk to them, treat them with respect, and just respect who they are becoming, especially when you talk about somebody that's 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Like they still growing and this, that, and other. But it's not easy, but it has to be done because in order for us to get into a better place of decency, you know, these conversations and allies have to be on the whole process of being a good neighbor and these good neighbor talks is ultimately knowing how to be respectful and to give the tools and power and empower people that are on the ground floor with this negativity and this this homophobia, the possibility of standing up and actually convert and educate somebody into not being a fuck boy for the rest of their life.
And you know what? I don't, this is not optimistic at all.
But
I don't believe, I don't want an ally to walk away listening to us because, of course, we rambled on and we talked about so many things. I hope you get the key points out of this, but I don't want you to walk away feeling like a failure if you try to engage a person, diffuse the homophobic conversation. You probably even got to a point where you tried to educate them and it's just not working. I don't want you to feel like every homophobe that you come in contact with, you're going to win them over to being an ally, because that is not going to be the case. Our goal here is to get as many allies as possible. I mean, not even, even if they're not willing to go to a to join a ACLU or any other political action, or I would just be happy if they was just out just making the world a safer place
mm-hmm.
for LGBT people. You know, don't put the weight of the world on you and think you're going to just change everybody. It's That's not realistic. It sounds pessimistic, but it's the
it's
truth. You're not a
it's funny
failure.
you said that. It's funny you say that. And I mean, we've been rambling on, but I want to again. This is about our sister, but because she gave me and about her coworker who was big on not allowing this child to be in this LGBT. She lives in California, so they have a whole curriculum that they go. And he was big on not wanting his child to be a part of this LGBT class. And they sign a waiver to get the kids so that they don't have to go in. She basically had this conversation on why are you hiding this from your child? It's not like they're not going to see people in the community. You know, this is a good thing, and he could not come with uh, as most homophobes or most people that are just ignorant to. They can't come with a cognitive reason to say no. I don't want him at this. He said he too young to be dealing with this and knowing about this stuff. Is this what white people said about black people? I'm,
Mhm.
but she and when it came up, she had a half-hour discussion with him and just was deemed that he's not going to change his mind. So when it came up a couple weeks later, she just kept her headphones on and kept working because she said, I'm not going to have this conversation with him again because I gave him all the points and he's just an idiot. So I'm not going to bring it up. And to your point, Burrs, though, you're not going to win everyone. But as a true ally, she stood up and said, bing, 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 this is the reason why you should allow your child to go to this class. Because bing, bing, bing. And honestly, you in California, you're going there are you understand us? And the craziest thing is, and you know better than this because because we have children. Our children are more enlightened about these subjects then we are, because they been in the midst of it, of people being out and open and expression and being who they are. So it's just like when it comes to those conversations, like my children is just like never cared about. It wasn't no thing, ever, especially coming from the post-racial, being the children of Obama as their president. They just like what they race and things like that went over. People is just people, and that's just it. It was. It's never. And also, it can come from the fact that if you're not in a household that teaches these negative hatred things and use these words and use and being derogatory to any type of you know minority or any type of race, then then it doesn't spawn this shit to go outside. And if they actually come across these days or these people that are like that at school, they shut them down because they not cool. That's not cool.
Well,
Just like the fact the term gay is used, and I had like years. Remember, it used to be used as a like a noun or a verb, and it's using as something. That shit is so gay. that, it's so funny to think about it now, but it was just like it was the pronoun for everything, and it was just like it was the joint. That was like Joel from Philly, because Joel can be any person, place, or thing. Whatever you talk about, that was gay. Gay was Joel back in the, you know what I mean?
I know they like, what do they talk about? No, this is the good, y'all. This is the good neighbor talks. This is what we do to
Nah, this,
hash
but
out.
it's just like what black people say. Gay was
Yeah,
just
we talk and we hash out things
yeah,
for understanding. This is like I said earlier. Good neighbor talks is nothing but what we call in the black community a cipher. I do have the link. You could have came up and had the conversation. Of course, the topic is about how to diffuse homophobic conversations. We did discuss that, but we're also giving you situations where you might have to have the conversation. Apparently, you're going to be having the conversation all the time, depending upon
yeah,
the folks you're around.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
oh my God. We have
It's
gave
I mean,
several education, online spaces, work.
yeah.
My God.
Like if you actually, I mean, if you get deep into it, it could be a daily thing of
Oh,
something where so you actually
redirection.
have yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How to
And
diffuse it.
and then I tell you, being part of this organization is just like sometimes and people knowing it, that's when they just actually pull me aside and just be like, yo, they ask me, about this, that, and especially when it comes to dealing with, you know, trans people and how to go about it and how to talk to them or just and just
Mm.
like with the pronouns and using proper the names of this whatever. And I know I found out like it's big in the medical field. They ask you all those pertinent questions. So at least the doctor's office and the hospital that I use are pertinent to knowing about people's pronouns and is there a name that you would prefer to be called and they want this is they put on their forms before you I mean when you're opening when you first start going to and you know what the craziest I'm a ramble again. I went to a new doctor, and they do, the intake, and they ask you questions, and then when they asked about, my blood, sexual history, and they asked, oh man, then he asked if, orientation. He like, was that, your partner, male or female? And it was, but it wasn't, at least okay for me as a heterosexual. I wasn't. It wasn't like, what? Why would you ask me that? Obviously I'm heteros. You know what I mean? It was more or less like, yo, and they were professional, and it was just like because they wanted, it was about my health, and it was like, okay, because they were asking about STDs and about how many partners do you, when we put your blood work, do you want to get STD history? You need to check for HIV, this, that, and other. And I thought that was just like very detailed and respectful, in my opinion, that if I was part of the community, and I may be overstepping, it that the doctor, the checklist, and the doctor went over that because to make sure I had options, to make sure I was, you know, okay. If that makes any sense, you know, just like if, as a hetero person. So,
Yeah, but that could have went left too. And
oh, I'm sure.
yeah,
If I
if
mean,
the person
it was the.
wouldn't have, if they wouldn't have asked you those questions and made assumptions, um I don't think allies realize that too can be considered a person coming at you as a homophobe, coming a doctor. Like I went to the gynecologist. um um what did she ask me? I said I wanted a hysterectomy. She
Hmm.
said, is your husband okay with you doing that? That's inconsiderate, and that's something that you have to redirect to.
Hmm.
I had to redirect her. Well, who says, I have a husband? So that's another situation in a professional setting. You always have to have these conversations. I have went plenty of places with my partner, Smack, and we'll go to the front desk and they'll say, well, he's here. And I have to correct, you know, or we'll be outside. She's misgendered and you have to correct. So that's another space where you have to interject and have these conversations. And again, it goes back to what we've been saying this whole live stream. Social change is a lot, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because you're challenging people to change what they are socially used to, their norms. And I think that's what the pushback is with the trans community, to be honest.
Hmm.
We're asking for you to change how you change your language,
Hmm.
change your view on gender identity, sexuality, all that stuff. Change it. And it's a lot. But just on the base level, as an ally, if you're not educated, I don't recommend you trying to have the whole conversation. I just recommend
No,
you just
no.
redirect it, and you know that's my friend. um you misgendered her, that's he or they,
Right.
and leave it alone. you know leave it alone if you ain't got the tools. But yeah, this conversation, mm, you end your show. What are you telling these
Man, okay.
what are you
Yeah.
telling these allies? Because
I'm
unfortunately, it's a lot. It's the way this world is set up. All the things, all the things that's running in media, all the things that's just going
it's
on in the world. It's a lot of
it is, and it's not one thing that's going to be solved in one live stream that's been going on for 2 hours.
no.
And that actually was scheduled probably for 45 minutes, but that's the whole. This is the passion. This is the. This is actually the just the off roads that just comes about when you start looking into it. It is very fast. I'm going to end it or this. Stick with the good neighbor talks because we're going to arm you with the tools that you need and give you an overview of what goes on a daily basis in the community and what can be actually used and done. And as you can start picking up on things where you say that this is homophobic. This is what or I've learned like from being in the organization to pick up certain things and when I hear something I my head, my neck snaps. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not cool. And but because you might not be sensitive to those things. But I mean, if it's certain topics that you would like to see and for us to discuss, or shoot us an email or send us a message. But next week we're going to be talking about representation and how it's representation and not what not
Propaganda.
induction. It's not getting pulled into the clan because that's just a whole nother thing. Whereas though I'm of the belief that nobody you don't choose to be gay. You are born a certain way. It's no. I get annoyed when I hit like you see on. I'm switching teams. I'm going to do this. That. Frustrated and but these are all the things that gay people deal with, and as allies, you hear the things because we are in these rooms with these quote unquote homophobes or shit talkers or just ignorant people that want to shit on somebody because their lives aren't the best. But thank you for giving your insight and coming on with me tonight, Paris, because and I really want to bring in other people so we can have conversations about these things, allies, and I like to hear from people on the community from the community, so you can so they can I can get their perspective about these topics and how it actually affects them, you on
Yeah.
a personally, because that's how people we connect. That's how we, as a community, can come come together. Because when stories or beliefs and it breeds understanding. The selfishness in me is that I want my people to be safe. I want my people to move forward and be treated with equality. I know for a fact that my people that look like me may not have the same orientation as me. So if they are being disrespected, it's no peace for all. That's the humane. I think I can leave it at that. So just be a good neighbor, and until next time, until next week, you know, See you later.
Bye, everybody.